Yeah, I'm Captain Clay Higgins, Congressman, 3rd District, Louisiana. I'll be 56 years old in August next month. I've been American all that time. I've been a street cop for 14 years. I served my country honorably in the Army as an MP. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm a constitutionalist patriot. So I've been a lot of things for many years, but I've only served up there for 6 months. Since January, 7 months, call it. I can tell you that I'd like to give you some uplifting news. We are not as divided as the press would have you believe. I have met so many men and women in this body behind me that are fierce patriots, man. Men and women that would die for their country in a second. You hear me good? On both sides of the aisle. I've met men and women like that. To my surprise, I'm a guy that, I was raised on a horse ranch in South Louisiana. 7th of 8 children. I grew up in a different America than we have around us today. Let's talk about that for a minute. Being the 7th of 8 children, my family was poor. I didn't know we were poor, but we were. We had anywhere from 50 to 150 horses. So injuries were common. Injuries were common. Stitches for this, sprained that, broken the other. But the Higgins family didn't have any health insurance. You know who else didn't have any health insurance in the 70s in America? Nobody. Nobody. We're having a massive debate in our country right now about health insurance, are we not? As recently as the 70s in America, you youngsters, if you don't believe you, Uncle Clay, Google it. As recently as the 70s in America, nobody had health insurance. The average person did not have health insurance, so we got along just fine. Nobody sued their doctor. That was your doctor, for God's sake. If he made a mistake, it wasn't on purpose. I went to public schools. I went to a large high school with 1,300 students, all rural. Virtually every vehicle in the parking lot was a pickup truck. They only had regular cabs back then. You fellas remember? They didn't have fancy trucks. But in the back glass of virtually every pickup truck was a shotgun or a rifle or both. That's right. And nobody got shot. That's right. That's right. Now they want to blame the guns? Yeah. It's ridiculous, the narrative that's being spoken across this country about our Second Amendment rights. They're blaming access to guns. Guns were barely regulated at all in this country until the 60s. Again, you youngsters, if you don't believe your Uncle Clay, Google it. It wasn't until the 60s in the United States of America that serial numbers were required to be etched upon guns sold in this country. In the 50s, any child could buy a gun from any seller if Daddy sent him with the money. And they're going to tell us now that the reason we have shootings is because of access to guns? No, ma'am. No, sir. I began college at Louisiana State University in 1979. I am college educated. I managed to squeeze 4 years of education in only 7 years. I worked my way through college. I didn't have massive student debt because I didn't make any loans. In my family, it was real simple. You want to go to college, knock yourself out. You get a job and pay for it, or join the military, let them pay for it. I ended up doing both. Good for you. But when I began, thank you, ma'am. When I began college, listen to this, it's fascinating, it's reflective of our country today. We've strayed so far from this rule book right here as a nation. Listen to this I'm about to share with you. It's fascinating. I was a carpenter. I learned carpentry from my father. I had carpentry skills. Growing up on a horse ranch, those of you with a similar life understand. You learn as a child how to drive a nail and cut a board straight, read a level, etc. The company I worked for was a small company. We did historical renovations. These old homes we had to restore in order for the home to qualify for its status as a historical home. Certain things we had to do, certain process. One of those was to determine what was originally left in the home. You youngsters, pay attention to your Uncle Clay. I'm sharing wisdom with you. We had to determine what was originally left from that home built 7,500 years ago. This is in the city in Baton Rouge. You could tell by a saw cut whether it was power or by hand. So there were ways to determine what was originally a part of that home, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, you know what none of these homes had that were built 100 years ago in our country? Locks. Somebody said locks. That's right. No locks. Now, I'm standing amongst patriots here, some of whom are missing, our MIA POWs, right? They're missing. We honor them. We think of them. Our soldiers that are serving overseas right now to defend this nation. I'm fighting within this body to stand for what we believe in. But let me ask you, we used to live in a country where everybody had guns and you didn't have school shootings and mass shootings. There's guns in every vehicle. Well, nobody had health insurance. We got along just fine. And where homes were built in cities with no locks.
Amen. That's right.
You got to ask yourself, what happened to that country, man? Where is that country? I'll tell you where it is. It's in the hearts and souls of men and women like you. We have a massive job ahead of us. Our nation must be rebuilt from a spiritual cornerstone. We must recognize the brotherhood, the American bond, the spirit that binds us together to stand beneath the glory of one flag.
Put prayer back in school.
But we are a nation that's $20 trillion in debt. $20 trillion in debt. 9 brief years ago, we were only $9 trillion in debt, which was still massive. Some of us were reeling at the fact that we were $9 trillion in debt. We've more than doubled our national debt under one presidency, our previous president. Now, our current president, President Trump, I don't know where anybody within earshot, but hear me good. I stand with him, I stand beside him, and I will continue to support him. He's a good man. I met with him, not one-on-one. You know, I don't mean to state anything that's not true. I don't want to mislead anybody. But I've been in meetings with him with as few as 50 or 60 men, and I can tell you, close enough to feel his spirit, measure his heart. He's a good man. He loves his country, and he's going to fix it whether anybody likes it or not. So let me talk about our debt for a moment, if I may. If I go too long, brother, just come kick me. I've been kicked before, trust me. $20 trillion in debt. If my colleagues and I would run a $1 billion surplus, $1 billion surplus, listen to this. If we would run a $1 billion surplus, can you imagine the celebration? Right? I intend to get us there, but listen to this. This is the peril. This is the peril that we have placed our nation in for the future, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, our children unborn. Yes. If we would run a $1 billion surplus, ladies and gentlemen, it would take 20,000 years to address a $20 trillion debt.
Wow.
Now, does anyone here amongst you, within earshot, conservative or liberal, or anything in between, does anybody here think we'll have 20,000 years to fix this thing? No. No, ma'am. No, sir. It's going to require courageous action now. Now, constitutionalist patriots, like me, and I'm humble to say that that's what I am. I'm happy to work across the aisle with anybody that will identify themselves as a constitutionalist patriot that's willing to actually fix the problems of this country. Men like me that run for office, we need your help. There's a man here today, a police officer. Where's Izzo? Where's Izzo? Where's Patrolman Izzo? You can't miss him. He looks like he picks up Buicks in the gym. There's a man running for office in the city of Chicago, running for chief of police as a Republican.
I'm recording all this. So.
It's happening. There's a movement happening across the country. From sea to shining sea, we, the people, are standing up. We, the people, will be heard. We, the people, are silent no longer.
Amen. No longer.
We're gonna fix this country. We're gonna do it with compassion. We're gonna do it with love. We're gonna do it with focus. I've said many times in my career as a police officer that a man's character shouldn't be measured by how he falls. It should be measured by how he stands back up. I believe our nation has fallen, but I also believe in my heart, in my spirit, that our generation will not be measured by our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. Our generation will not be measured by the fact that we've allowed our nation to fall. But we will be measured by whether or not we stand it back up. That's where patriots like you, men and women like you across the country must bond together, must stand together, must show up for vote, must run for office, must make your voice heard. Sit down no longer, be quiet no longer. I'm going to leave you with the words from our Father, shared by Paul in Corinthians. Sometimes I think about these things on my bike. I'm a biker. I've been a biker since I was 12, by the way. I was an illegal biker for a while. I think I'm on my 12th motorcycle, Harley Davidson. I ride Harleys. That's right, I'm a biker, street cop, soldier, horse ranch guy. But I took a hell of a demotion to be a congressman, I can tell you that. But I'm doing it to serve our country, baby. So I think about these words sometimes when I make the world go away on the saddle of my Harley. No phones, no text messaging, you know, no interference, no Facebook. Just me, the sound of my bike, the vision of God's creation around me, the wind in my face. And I think about the words in this book that resonate in my soul. And I'm going to leave you with a few of them. In Corinthians, Paul shared with us, place not your faith in the wisdom of man, but in the spirit and power of God.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. Place not your faith in the wisdom of man, but in the spirit and power of God. I love you all. I serve you all. I stand for you all. I stand for those that are not here right now, that feel as we do, that we're going to stand our country back up. I stand with our president. And we shall not falter. God bless you one and all. I'm Captain Clay Higgins, Congressman, Louisiana 3rd District. I'm an American. I'm a patriot. I'm a biker. I'm a soldier. I'm a street cop. I'm a congressman. And I'm a servant. I serve you.